Boy oh boy, doing research for this one was certainly tiresome and annoying, and as you'll all soon find out, Daemon quite literally is a problem child. And today, we're going to go over his abilities. Ever since Daemon's introduction into Boruto, people have hyped up and pretty much held him as if not the strongest, one of the strongest characters in the big three. And with an ability like his, I completely understand why this could be the case. For those of you who don't watch Boruto or know who he is or what he can do, I will briefly explain him to you. Daemon is one of several cyborgs created by Amado, basically the Dr. Gero version of Naruto, and he was given the cells of Shibai Otsutsuki, a being that after consuming so many chakra fruits was able to discard his corporeal form and exist in a higher dimension. With the cells of this being, Daemon gained the ability of reflection, and that brings us to this video's purpose. This video is going to serve as a precursor to Can Daemon Defeat the Bleach verse? So we're going to do a full breakdown of his ability and go over almost every instance it's been used thus far. I'm your host Ab-Stract, and this is the Ab-Stract section. Let's get started. The first time we see Daemon's ability is during chapter 59, when the guards at Boro's hideout attempt to destroy the cyborgs. They try a variety of attacks, all which are reflected. A soldier fires a gun, but the force of the shot rebounds onto him. Another attempts to throw an axe, only to have it plunge into his own skull. Lastly, one guard loses his head before even mounting an attack. These scenes demonstrate that Daemon's ability doesn't require an attack to fully connect. It activates as soon as intent is directed toward him. We also learned from Ada that the stronger the intent to kill, the more powerful the reaction. She claims that simply imagining a killing scene causes the outcome to reflect back onto the attacker. Now I would like to point out that Ada is being extremely selective as far as what she shares about Daemon's ability. I'm not saying this information is a total lie, but I don't think it's completely accurate, and we'll get into why that is. The next time we see Daemon use his ability is in chapter 60, when Code launches his claw marks at him while he's busy fooling with Bug. Daemon is taken completely off guard by the claw marks and doesn't notice them until after they've already been fired and reflected. This tells us that the ability is passive and Daemon does not have to be aware of any specific attack for the reflection to kick in. Now before we get into the last few examples, let's take a look at Amado's statement concerning Daemon's ability, and we'll wrap it up with the coup de grace of how it works and exactly how to get around it. Amado starts off his explanation by saying he reflects all attacks, any action that would inflict harm on him. And though it's necessary for his hands to be touching another person, his ability will also transfer to the person he's currently touching. Now the only issue I had with this is that Code's claw marks are not an attack and cannot cause harm, yet they were reflected. But by the end of the video, this too will make sense. Jumping into chapter 67, Kawaki with his new karma seal is beating the brakes off Code and essentially just overpowering him. He then charges up an attack and is about to use it on Code, but right before this happens, Code grabs Daemon from Ada using his claw marks, and the next thing we see is Kawaki getting blasted by his own attack. Now going back to Ada's statement, the stronger the intent to kill, the more powerful the reaction, and a foe simply picturing the killing scene will cause the end result to be instantly reflected. Two things. Number one, Kawaki survived this attack. Number two, and I want to make this clear, Kawaki had all and every intention to kill Code in this fight. He says as much, stating, "I'll eliminate anyone threatening Lord Seven's life, even my bros," and we actually see him kill Boruto, so there's no question that he intended to end Code with that attack. Now I understand my fanbase is very smart, so the question you should all be asking yourselves is, does this fly in the face of Ada's statement about the end result being reflected? Because as I said, it's clear Kawaki had full intentions of ending Code then and there, as he tried to do so. Well, the answer is no. I do not believe Kawaki surviving his own reflected attack is a contradiction to Ada's statement, and I'm going to tell you why. I believe, and the evidence would suggest, Daemon's ability works in two ways. Number one, he can reflect all physical things intended for him, malicious or otherwise. Meaning, whatever you do, if it's intended for Daemon, it will be reflected. Whether it's a harmful attack or not, it simply won't work. And the reason I'm limiting this to physical things for now is because he hasn't shown the capabilities to reflect non-physical attacks or things of the like. Number two, he can reflect all malicious thoughts towards him. Going back to Ida's statement about picturing the killing scene and that resulting in death. As we've seen with the guard that only drew his sword and was decapitated, and on a lower level when Kawaki just imagined hitting Daemon and that got reflected. So the reason Kawaki survived was because in the moment of his attack, he was only focused on the attack itself. He wasn't visualizing in his head what would happen to Code because he literally was about to see it with his own eyes. So the end result, which likely would have been Code's death, only resulted in Kawaki tanking his own attack and being knocked out by it. Now I'm aware some fans hold hold the belief that the end result will be reflected regardless of the intent, but Kawaki surviving his own attack disproves that notion. The only time the end result has shown to be the outcome is when someone specifically imagined Daemon's death and the result of that thought was reflected, and again of course I'm talking about the guard that lost his head. Everyone else was just simply too weak to tank their own attacks, as Kawaki has proved. Now, what Ida said the code was the truth, but it was framed in such a way that it made it very illogical to want to fight Daemon, much less think about killing him. It gave the impression that simply thinking about killing Daemon or attacking him with killing intent would be reflected, but these two things have been shown to be mutually exclusive and work differently. If you still don't get what I'm saying, basically you can attack Daemon with intent to kill as long as you can survive your own attack. What you cannot do is picture yourself killing Daemon or any other violent act, because the end result of these things will be reflected. The last instance we're going to look at is Daemon vs. Code. Now this is the most interesting scenario and gives us deeper insight into Daemon's ability. So we see Daemon on Code's back and Code raising his left hand to attack Daemon's head. Now as he is in motion for his attack, Code's head starts to get scratched up and he says to himself, "My intent to kill is already being reflected." Then he disappears into his claw marks. This is interesting because previous attackers suffered the full reflection of their actions simply by enacting the attack. Code, however, avoids a fatal outcome. Why? I have two possible explanations. Number one, Code may have stopped his attack mid-motion, thus nullifying the reflection by disengaging. Number two, by teleporting away, Code removed Daemon as a valid target, disrupting the reflection process. In either case, it would appear if you're fast enough, you can somewhat get around this ability. The last thing I will mention is the thing I have yet to bring up this entire conversation: Daemon's hands and their connection to his ability. So after Code retreats from attacking Daemon, he attempts to fight him head on. But before that, Bug tells Code to beware of Daemon's palms, as actions only get reflected when he's touching someone else. And Ada's response to this makes me believe that this could be true, but based on past showings, I have my doubts. So after fully catching up on Boruto and doing some more research, I came across a few things about Daemon's power. It would seem what Bug said is the truth, as in almost every time Daemon reflects a physical attack, his palms are in contact with another person. Except for one time specifically, and that point in time involves Bug himself. See, when Daemon attacks Bug after killing the guards, he is definitely touching him with his palms, but when Code goes to launch his claw marks, Daemon's hands aren't in contact with Bug, yet the claw marks are reflected. Now normally I would go with what is most accurate and consistent, but we're still missing key details about his ability. So based on the evidence, here's how I interpret Daemon's abilities. Reflection of actions. Daemon reflects all physical actions directed at him, harmful or otherwise. This includes attacks intended to harm as well as neutral attacks like Code's claw marks. However, this doesn't mean Daemon is untouchable. He can still interact physically with others, like when he kicks the guards and as seen when Boruto grabs him from behind. But the main takeaway is that if Daemon is the intended target, whatever you're doing will be reflected. Reflection of intent. Malicious thoughts or killing intent directed at Daemon trigger proportional reflections. If an attacker imagines a specific outcome such as Daemon's death, that outcome will be reflected back onto them. This is evident in the guard who lost his head after imagining Daemon's demise, and on a lower level when Kawaki simply imagined hitting him and felt the results of that. Now moving forward, since this video is to serve as a precursor to Daemon vs. Bleach, I will only name abilities that fall within the specific outlines and stuff that I've set out in this video. This is not to say this is exactly how Daemon's ability works, but we have enough information to at least theorize and make some fun videos of who could defeat him as he is now. Now if other stuff comes out, like he can reflect non-physical actions like a genjutsu or some spiritual attacks or something like that, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I ain't making no apology videos. I ain't sorry for shit I said yet. Daemon is on the chopping block, and as of 2025, we are pushing the asking agenda, and then we're pushing the Toshido agenda because there's too much smut on both of these guys' names, and I'm going to bring them to the forefront. Ab-Stract section, we out.